Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.
The Rock and Review is so pleased to bring a friend to our show that's been on more than a few times. It is the one and only creative mastermind behind some of the great Taylor guitars you've seen over the years. Andy Powers, thanks for coming back on the show.
Oh, Eric, it's such a pleasure to be here. I wish we were here in person. I really miss it.
Well, you guys have some great news.
That's the way this year goes, I suppose.
Yeah, unfortunately, but you guys Taylor have some great news to where, and I might have read this wrong, but the company is now employee owned.
That's right. That's right. This is a project that Bob and Kurt and I have been working on along with a team of others for the past 7 years. It's taken us a long time to get to this point, but we were just able a couple of weeks ago to announce that we have officially, formally transitioned ownership of Taylor Guitars to our employees in the form of an ESOP, which is, it's known as an employee stock option plan, right? Or stock ownership plan, sorry. And essentially it becomes like a retirement account for folks that we work with. But what it really means is that past our own lifespans, Taylor Guitars gets to remain independent and true to its values, its philosophies, its purpose. It's not something that kind of is going to go sideways on you and go, one direction or another and leave the very thing that we value so much, which is building, designing, producing these great guitars for musicians to benefit from. So it's a huge, exciting piece of news for us to go, wow, past our own lifespans now, this Taylor Guitars thing that we feel is special and unique, it gets to remain totally independent and benefit not just the musicians who play these guitars that we love making, but all of our employees as they spend their working lifetimes here. So for us, it's a real thrill and a privilege to get to share that and to be able to do that and introduce this whole idea at the beginning of 2021 felt like, man, we all needed some good news. So this was something it just made it so much sweeter to get to tell people about. So from here on out, Taylor Guitars is 100% employee owned.
Well, and speaking of good news, Andy, I have to bring this up to where 50 plus artists involved in I Know What Love Is, and 100% of the proceeds from this song going to charities as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. That was the I Know What Love Is. That's the name of this tune that we had produced. And it started as a simple conversation when so many things became interrupted and communities started shutting down. We looked around both our own factory and our community of musicians around us, our roster of artists, our own local music communities, and thought, man, the thing that we're really missing is playing. We're missing live music. We're missing, it feels like kids in a sandbox playing with their toys. One of the guys from our marketing team, Jay Parkin, he'd reached out to a couple of artist friends and started kicking these ideas around of like, well, hey, let's put together a song and we'll just pass it around, almost like a chain letter, if anybody remembers what that is.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
And so before we knew it, Keith Godwin from the band Good Old War and Jay had put this tune together that sounded great. And we started passing it around all over. It ended up all over the US and even across the Pacific Ocean, all through Japan, different places with artists kind of handing it from person to person and going into their home studios and contributing a little bit or a piece or a verse or a chorus or an instrumental track. And so we got to compile this piece together. And we thought, well, what better way to celebrate this sense of musical community by dedicating all of the proceeds to MusicCares, which is done. We hugely respect the work that they do, have a great relationship with them and their work to contribute back to this community of musicians. They've provided so much and we want to do everything that we can to encourage that effort.
I think it's incredible. And you guys have done so much. Also, I can't let you get away in a conversation with you, Andy, with not touching on some of the new guitar models. I told you earlier before we started the interview, you guys are just killing me. Because, I get to play these and then I want these and that's bad for me. So you're adding new instruments. So talk to me about this.
we're pretty excited about these guitars because in the course of this last year, we had set these plans in motion, and we were initially afraid that they'd be interrupted. But through thick and thin, we were able to continue working on these designs and filling out the tooling and whatnot. And so in this past fall, you saw us launch what we call the GT guitar, built with urban ash. That's tone wood, wonderful sounding wood that's reclaimed out of city street trees when they're taken out. Well, over the several years of development time that went into that guitar, I also realized, well, this is a platform. This is a guitar that's unlike other designs that I've ever tried. There's a unique internal architecture that's kind of derived from our V-class design,
Right.
but functions in a fairly different way. It's a unique scale length, string length, body dimensions. The entire package is a really unique, what I describe as a mid-length sort of a guitar.
I agree.
It's something that ends up with this super approachable, very easygoing, easy to play design that sounds great. Well, as I was developing that, I also built some of the classic tonewood pairings. So of course I built a rosewood and spruce version of that guitar.
Right.
And then I built an Alcoa version of that guitar. And so while I'm thrilled to have introduced the GT Urban Ash guitar, which is the Urban Ash plus spruce on top, I knew right away, I'm dying for this rosewood spruce version. So we're building an 811, as we call it, a GT 811,
Yeah.
kind of ornamented as within our 800 series line, as well as an Alcoa K21 guitar, ornamented like our Koa series guitar with all of its details and appointments. Those instruments are so unbelievably gratifying to play. They're so easy to play. They're easy to get around on. The way the strings feel in your hands is even a unique experience.
You don't feel like when you're playing it that it has the same tension of a full size. And also, kudos to you on it, Andy, with the C-class bracing derivative from your V-class. It still sounds very full. It sounds full sized, but yet it's easier to navigate, as a guitar.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Because the way that this scale length is derived at, there is less string tension. I mean, you could think of it as drop tuning your typical scale guitar,
Right.
E flat through E flat, and then put a capo at the first fret. That's essentially what the scale length is. So you have a little less distance in between frets to make some of the longer finger stretches easy, but overall you have that real slinky, almost electric guitar kind of feel. And so you can bring a whole different vocabulary of articulation, of vibrato, of string bending, of all these kinds of things into this real compact, easy to get along with guitar that still sounds like a really great, broad acoustic voice.
Right.
So it's a super fun, super appealing guitar to get to play.
Well, I've got to ask you this too, Andy, and obviously, working with Taylor guitars as you have, you come up with so many incredible innovations yourself, which I always enjoy knowing the nuts and bolts of things that you've done, some of the great designs you've done over the years. But I mean, with the pandemic going on, how have you seen this affect Taylor guitars as more people like you and I, are working from home and are picking up the guitar, ukulele, other instruments where before they didn't? How is Taylor Guitar seeing this?
Well, it's really interesting because in some cases it's devastating to see some of my music industry friends fall on such hard times. I mean, nobody's going to concerts, right? But on the flip side, like unprecedented levels, unprecedented numbers of people are turning toward making music for themselves. Mm-hmm. It's the enjoyment, that simple, direct, very real experience of picking up an instrument and making some music for yourself or your friends or your immediate family. It's that experience of saying, I don't know how to describe what's going on around me, but I can put it into the context of a song. And so we've seen players, a lot of new players, people who are taking the instrument up again, having put it down for decades even. All kinds of people are coming back toward this simple idea of, hey, when things go wrong, we want to turn to a song. We want to turn towards making music for ourselves. So we're building as many guitars as we're able, but it's just crazy to watch the outpouring of musical creativity that feels so vibrant and fresh in these days.
I think that's incredible. And once again, with the new models you're coming out with and the Koa, that I can't wait to see him play this, because I'm a big fan of Koa. And to me, Taylor, you guys work with that wood so well, and to where as a player, I always hear nuances and things within Koa that I don't hear in maybe Sitka or rosewood or mahogany. There's just overtones, particularly as you play them longer and they open up, Andy.
They do. This one in particular, the K21 in this GT platform, it's so enjoyable to play because it has an ultra colorful type of sound. Yeah. And the ease that the strings are articulated mean that you can bring such a wide variety of playing styles, of articulation styles, of nuances into this. It's one of the most colorful and enjoyable guitars I think we've ever built.
When can our viewers, when are they going to be able to find these new models rolling out into the public, Andy, so they can get them?
We're building them and shipping them to dealers now. Wow. Yeah, we've been working on these and introducing them, and as soon as we're able to complete each guitar, we're sending it out literally every day like it was fresh baked bread. I mean, we're trying to put these out into the hands of musicians to help foster their creativity.
I think that's incredible. Speaking of fostering, I want to bring up again to where with the single out, I Know What Love Is, where can viewers go and find that and download it, buy it, and make a donation to MusicCares? Right
now, it's available on Spotify. You can see it on YouTube. You can see it on, I believe, iTunes through Apple Music. It's available across a lot of different platforms, as well as our own website. So if you go to taylorguitars.com, you'll find links to it there.
Well, I'll tell you what, a lot of great stuff. I always prefer having you in person, Andy, so that you and I can pass around guitars and jam some and talk for a bit. But it's still great to have you on the show. Congratulations in the company changes, also in the song, with the charity, and 3 amazing new instruments launched by Taylor Guitars. Andy Powers, thank you so much for coming on the Rock and Review.
My pleasure, Eric.
Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.